What is up? Welcome to episode 78 Beers and Buckets. We're talking three prospects tonight that have all the same energy of one Ben Simmons, and you're not going to want to miss this. So go ahead and hit that like button and come on in. Enjoy this episode. Let's go. Welcome to Beers and Buckets, the only podcast that discusses college basketball, NBA basketball, and brews at the same time. We are part of the Variety Sports Network. Check them out on Twitter at variety_sports_. I am your host, Connor Caldwell, and I'm joined by Dowell Harmon tonight. Dowell, we just witnessed a franchise-setting record for Jimmy Butler. Describe it to me, your feelings.
Yeah, whenever you're in the same franchise that has had Dwayne Wade carry the team to 2 championships, you got LeBron playing there. LeBron's kind of good at basketball. Whenever you have someone set a franchise record and probably have the best postseason performance you've ever had, not a bad day in the office. Especially the Bucks have been a defensive team all year, and somehow the Heat, who have had like bad offense for a lot of the year, just have figured out how to score on this Bucks team. A lot of it is just Jimmy Butler eating in the mid-range, but kind of crazy that of all the teams to kind of figure out this Bucks defense and be able to score on them, for this Heat team to be it is weird.
Yeah. It wasn't even like it was a collapse by the Bucks either. Like, I mean, offensively, I guess you can kind of say it a little bit, but there were still a lot of moments within like this last 7 minutes that Giannis and Brook Lopez were just going back and forth, like just assists to Brook down the paint because no one could stop him. But it wasn't even like they were scoring. I mean, they come down the other end. I think Drew Holiday hit a massive 3 with like a minute 40 left. Chris Middleton, emphasis on the mid in this game, at least. That's what I noticed. Yeah.
True.
So it was just a weird game. But the fact that, I mean, Jimmy just from the jump too, it wasn't like it was like a late second half surge. Like he had 22 points in the first quarter.
When you score 56, it's hard to not be consistently good throughout the game.
Yeah. It's not like he just got all 56 in the second half. That was fun. Love to see that series go further than just the gentleman's sweep, like I think a lot of people were expecting. So that's really cool. So let's anything else that we want to talk about? Playoffs. Dylan Brooks is a chump, like just straight up bum.
What is he thinking? He came out and it was like, the media is portraying me as the villain, and I'm like,
you're doing that to yourself.
That'd be like Syndrome coming out and being like, they made me the villain in The Incredibles, and it's like, yeah, because you are, man. Like Grayson Allen coming out and being like, oh, the media's acting like that I trip people. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I was not surprised he got ejected the other night. No. The fashion in which he was ejected, I think, was a little weird. I mean, it was clear that he was going for the ball, and it just happened to LeBron happened to go behind the back. I mean, that's what it was. But just it is what it is. But I wasn't surprised that he got ejected. And the comments of people saying like, "Oh, if Michael ever or Kobe ever said that, or had somebody say that about them, they come out and score 40 in the first quarter." It's like that's not. No, like that's not necessarily true. Rex Chapman was in MJ's face and nothing happened, like that's the
Rex kind of went off is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So other playoff moments, trying to think any other ones. There's so many games this weekend. It's been kind of crazy. I got really nothing other than sucks for De'Aaron Fox. And it's on a shooting hand too, the left finger fracture. That sucks. Trying to think anything else. You got anything else on playoffs before we move on?
Playoffs, no. Warriors getting lucky again, classic. But no playoffs talk. I do have one college thing that I wanted to bring up that I sent you a tweet about.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
So Alabama transfer, I don't even remember his name. Let me.
Oh, I have it here. It's where is it? Jaquan Walton.
Yes. Apparently gonna tied. He got arrested for like possession of marijuana, I think, and multiple guns in his car. Was just obviously at the wrong place at the wrong time. And like, what, Bama? Come on, man! You can't let this happen.
Yeah, Nate Oates put out the official statement. Like Goodman tweeted it, and Rothstein tweeted it, and the statement was Jaquan Walton has left the program or whatever the wording was very vanilla and like just like you could put it into chat GPT and like it would come out exactly the same every time. It was like super corporate sounding, and it just had the same energy of Dwight in The Office having to state his regret. And he like unfolds the paper. He says, "I state my regret." And
Yep.
Jim was like, "You couldn't just memorize that." He's like, "No, because I did not mean it." Like it was had that same energy. So yeah, it was just weird. I mean, it was a lose-lose situation for Bama anyways. If they kept him on and be like, "Oh, they kept the criminal on," and if they the way they let him go, it's like, "Oh, they're just distancing themselves from that because of the Miller situations." Like, well, they knew they were wrong about the Miller situation. They're trying to make up for it here. But if the kid was as good as Brandon Miller, would they have let him go? Probably not. He didn't actually break any laws, from what I understood. Marijuana possession is a misdemeanor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I didn't see like how much it was or whatever. If it was like intent to sell, I think that's obviously a little bit different.
Yeah,
you had like enough weight for that, but yeah, it like again. Putting this part on NATO is a little like off, but because like you don't have control over what your players do, but you can't let this happen as a program.
No, it is unfortunate, just bad timing, wrong place, wrong time for Alabama program. That's what it really is. But yeah, so let's move on to the beer review then and get into that. So we decided to kind of switch up how we do our beer review. We're going to go through all the information, obviously, but we're going to have a ranking scale to get you guys a better perspective of how good these beers are. How good or bad, I should say. But really, we're going to talk about crushability, can design, aroma, flavor, just the beer appearance, and then overall, just we're going to give it a Dennis Rodman rating because Dennis Rodman was the biggest party animal in the NBA. Still is, probably could hang way more than those guys in the NBA now. So could you imagine, by the way, like Dennis Rodman in the bubble, like what would have happened? Like that would have been so fun.
That would have been terrifying.
Yes, it would have. So we have the Rodman scale. So it is either 1 through 5 Dennis Rodman heads. And so you'll see it on social media as we put more content out. But that is how we are ranking them.
We should make it like go from normal Dennis Rodman, like growing in the league, to craziest Dennis Rodman hair.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was planning on doing. So you could go ahead and lead us off with the beer review tonight, Dowell.
So I went to a liquor barn right before this, got a nice little 4-pack of this, and I got a 6-pack create your own. So I am stocked for the next little bit. But this is Against the Grain, is a brewery in Louisville. This is their double IPA called Citra Ass Down. Classic name.
Great name.
You definitely get like at least half a point for the clever wordplay there. It's got a little guy with a weird swan goose thing with a mohawk. I don't know. Kind of strange can design in all honesty, but like I said, it's called Citra Ass Down. So that's kind of an automatic win. It's like getting a bye in the tournament. Like they're just automatically in the semifinals. I mean, it's a double IPA, so the crushability, not great. Probably like a 1 on the crushability scale. But the like IPA-ness starts as soon as you taste it, but it doesn't get like any worse. You know how some of them get like more bitter as you go?
Yeah.
I don't have that, which is actually kind of nice. It's very upfront about like giving you what it is promised. Yeah, this is solid. I'm excited. One of my friends, so we're having a bonfire tomorrow after one of my friends plays volleyball. and he's big into IPAs and stuff. So I'm excited to get his thoughts.
Nice.
But yeah, this is 8.2%. It's also a pint, not a 12-ounce can. 8.2% was a 68, I believe, IBUs. Has a 3.89 on Untapped, which is really high. Let's go. Ooh, I gotta go aroma. It didn't really smell. Can't really smell it. Yeah, I'll go. I mean, like, I don't know, 2. I'll go that 2 for aroma. I'll do a 3.5 for flavor, and then let's see. I mean, it's kind of like a little bit orangey yellow. We'll go, I don't know, like a 3.5 on appearance.
Respectable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could probably drink one more of these, and after that, I would probably want to switch to something a little lighter. But
Yeah,
good.
All right, and it comes out to a 2.6 out of 5 overall. So 2.6 Rodman heads out of 5 there.
That's like right after he has gone to Vegas and he's like calmed down a little bit. So he's not quite in Vegas form. He's gotten out of his system a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm drinking the Icelandic Arctic lager that is from Einstock. I mentioned them last week on the pod when I did the white ale winter lager. They do have a winter lager, but I went with the or white ale. I'm sorry, winter ale, white ale, whatever it is. But this is the Arctic lager from Einstock. Obviously, the brewery located in Iceland. Can design, I have it as a 2 out of 5, or no, I'm sorry, 4 out of 5, because it's got like geometric shapes making the Viking face on it.
That's cool.
Pretty dope. And also, like, it's got that print on it of the label that's like more of a matte finish, which is like, I love when a beer has that feeling. So it doesn't feel like aluminum necessarily. I'd say it's probably a 2 out of 5 and crushable. Like, I drank 2, like you said, and I probably want to switch it up. Not just chug a bunch. Aroma it's actually kind of skunky aroma wise, so I put it as a 1 out of 5. But the flavor is solid, and I put it at 3 out of 5. And then the appearance, it's a lighter one, so it's lighter than most lagers, and lighter beers just appear more to me than most. Like, I like them more, so I put it as a 4 out of 5. So all in all, I think the overall ranking is 3 out of 5 here tonight. So three Rodman heads out of 5 of how good it is. Yeah, not bad. This was a 4.7 alcohol by volume. The type is a pale lager is what it is. And
Okay.
it is it's a 4.7, like I said, 0 IBUs, and Untapped has this 3.53. So slightly above what we normally have.
Yeah.
And what we put down on here. So I'd say that's the general consensus overall. It doesn't really tell you how good the beer is. I'm gonna drink all 6 of them if that tells you anything. So, or at least give one to a friend and then drink the other 5. Well, the other 4 after this one. So that tells you exactly what you need to know about it. Typically, there's some beers from this podcast that I've done that I can't even give away, that just been sitting in my beer fridge for like 2 years now. So kind of crazy that we've been doing it this long, and I still have beers from like last December in my fridge, but here we are. So that is that, and the beer review is over. Let's move on to our main event of the night, draft prospects. This episode of Beers and Buckets is brought to you by SeatGeek. Get $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek using promo code VSN. That's $20 off using promo code VSN. Also, this episode is brought to you by University Traditions. They have awesome apparel, so go check them out. Use promo code VSN15 to get 15% off your first order. And now we're back to the episode. So last week we talked about rim protecting bigs, and they weren't even necessarily all centers, or like they're either centers or power forwards. We didn't have them in a set position. This week we have a set position. We're talking point guards tonight. No, we're not talking Scoot. No, we're not talking Marcus Sasser. No, we're not talking what's another point guard in this draft? Pure
Jason
point guard.
Wallace.
Yeah, Casey Wallace. I don't know. I have Casey Wallace kind of a he's like a combo guard to me. He played a lot of pure point at Kentucky, but
He's
really,
a one in the league.
you think he's a one in the league? We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out for that episode. But the archetype for tonight is tall playmaking point guards, or as we like to call them here, Beards and Buckets, the Ben Simmons children or Ben Simmons clones. Either or works for me. They're slightly shorter than Ben Simmons, but it fits. It really fits on tonight's archetype. So the three prospects we are talking tonight is one Jalen Hood-Schifino, one Anthony Black, and one Amen Thompson. So those are the three guys we are talking tonight and breaking down. So we'll start it with the least talked about of these three, and that is Jalen Hood-Schifino, the freshman point guard / shooting guard from Indiana, 6'6", 213 pounds. ESPN had him as the 26th prospect in 2022. He is 19 years old. He will be turning 20 like right around the draft, June 19th. So there's that. He is mocked around the 16th pick to Utah. And yeah,
That's
so
about right.
Another thing him and Ben Simmons have in common, do you know what it is?
Montverde.
Yes, they both played at Montverde. So, which is not super far from me. I really should like if there's a big prospect going through there anytime soon, I should go catch a game soon.
I'm sure there will be.
That'd be pretty cool. Tankathon hates this guy. Absolutely hates
this is offensive. Like this is so rude.
We don't have it posted on here. You might pop it up on here, but Tankathon usually has stat strengths and stat weaknesses. There's no strengths and there's a bunch of weaknesses for him.
Yeah.
But I think they're just casuals about him. So we're gonna get to the bottom of this tonight. So Dowell, let me know what your thoughts are on Jalen Hood-Schifino.
I really like him. I think the biggest negative to me, like just having watched him and having watched Indiana, is just he's not like the consistency just isn't there.
Yeah.
When he's really good, he's really good, which is why he is like kind of warranted as a high draft pick. But some days he just doesn't have it, and when that happened, Indiana completely fell off a cliff. A lot of their losses were games where he went, like I'm just looking at his KenPom page right now, went 1 for 12 from 2 and 0 for 2 from 3 against Maryland. And they lost 66-55 on the road. Like an offensive rating of 32 that game.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that he wasn't the only person that was struggling, but that's just one example of a lot of their losses. You look, and this obviously happens when it's arguably your best player. I guess second best player because Trayce Jackson-Davis is probably the best. But a lot of their losses are at the bottom of his stat performances. So part of that, again, like I said, just being an important player. But whenever you are kind of the reason your team doesn't win, that worries me a little bit.
Yeah, I get that. Part of it, I think, is also the play style. Trayce Jackson-Davis was very much ISO scoring. Like there wasn't a lot to set up for Trayce Jackson-Davis, and he was used on more than 28% of their possessions. So Jalen was used a lot too. He's the second leading contributor in that regards. He was in 24 to 28 range percentage, but I mean, a lot of it is they're definitely playing through Trayce Jackson-Davis. So it's going to be, like I think his stats are a little skewed, and we're going to talk about Amen Thompson, and I want to talk about their play style in OTE and how that skews his stats a little bit as well. But overall, I think what's working for Jalen here is the mid-range shooting, which is kind of odd because that's something that like you don't see a lot, especially at college level. But it really worked for him, and NBA does a lot of drop coverage, and so he's going to be able to cook in that, and it's going to make him look like a better scorer than he was in college, I think, because they don't do a lot of drop coverage in college. So that'll help him there. Ball handling, I think he was a fine ball handler. I wouldn't say like he had a deep bag, but
but he's more than enough, especially for his like relative to his size. I
Mhm.
think like we watch Josh Giddey cook the league all the time, and that dude has negative bag, which
Yeah.
is like a TikTok trend of people just being like, he
He
just
just runs
dribbles
fast.
left and hits a left-handed layup. Like he has there's no move, there's no anything. He's just does it.
No.
So
yeah, he's got a deeper bag than Josh Giddey for sure. So I like that for him. His passing is very good. I think he sees the court really well. That's one thing that we could say about all three of these guys tonight is they are all really good passers. Some of them are better than others. Jalen Hood-Schifino, I think, is a fine passer. I wouldn't say he's an elite passer, but he has good court vision and sees the court really well to the point that he sets up a lot, even though Indiana wasn't a great shooting team. So how many missed assists were there for JHS this season? Because he got them a good pass, so they just didn't make it. He's really good at navigating the pick and roll against like attacking defenses too. I noticed that when watching his film.
I was gonna say both sides. I think he does a really good job of defending.
He's
6'6". So all these guys are long for their point guards. So whenever they're guarding guys, they're normally bigger. But he does a good job of like kind of poking through and like disrupting stuff on the defensive end too in the pick and roll dribble handoff kind of deal.
Yeah, he's really good on ball and has quick hands, and then he's also really good about pressuring the ball away from the basket. Granted, I don't know like the quality of guards there were in the Big Ten, but overall, like it wasn't like super high. But he was still good because using his strength, using his size to pressure the ball away from them, and because he's also really good at recovery. So if he did try and somebody did sneak by him, he was able to recover really well. And overall, Indiana had really solid help defense too, so they weren't exactly great at the other opposing teams weren't exactly great at getting to the bucket if he was to gamble like that. So
yeah,
and then also he fights through screens really well on defense. Like if he wants to get over, like no one's getting a shot off if he gets a screen there because he's long enough to fight through it and contest the shot. And if he wants to go under the screen on a poor shooter, I mean he can handle guarding that big that's screening for him too. So that's a really solid thing all around. So his size and strength there helps a bunch.
All three of these guys we're talking about, like we said, they're big point guards, so their size isn't going to be an issue and is likely going to be a strength for all three of them.
Correct. So that's what's working for JHS here. What he needs to work on, the first thing he needs to work on shooting. I mean, that's kind of a given for all three of these guys tonight, and that's why we call them Ben Simmons clones because he also needs to work on shooting. But he's not an explosive athlete, so he really needs to improve his shooting because the form is there, right? Like he doesn't have like some wonky form, no Lonzo Ball like going across his chest like deal. Like his form is fine aesthetically. Yeah. He just needs to try a little bit.
Shot what?
I think he finished the season 33% from three. He didn't shoot a lot though. He only shot 111 threes.
Yeah, 36% in conference play, but shot 82% from the free throw line in conference play. Only missed 8 free throws in Big Ten play all year. Shot almost 78% from two. He finishes decently well at the rim too. I feel like it'll be
if shooting is one thing like he needs to work on, that's fine. There's really like that's the only big concern I have for him here is his shooting ability. And so my comp in a little bit will make a little bit more sense why I say that. But the form is there aesthetically is fine. Like the mechanics are fine. You just got to tweak some things. But for him to be an effective scorer at this level, he's got to be able to shoot because he's not explosive. So he can't just blow by people to get to the bucket. He's never been like he's got a decent touch around the rim, but not great. And it's because he's not super athletic. I think that's part of the reason why. So that's one thing he needs to work on. The other thing he needs to work on is just taking care of the ball. So tighter entry passes, better at lobs, better handle. Like it's not, like I said, it's not a deep bag. He's not like a great handler, but he's not terrible. He just needs to tighten it up a little bit more. But those are my only two things that really needs to work on, which is funny because he's the least ranked player here. And I have more complaints about the higher ranked guys, but I think that just shows the expectations that we have for these guys too. So I don't think JHS is getting a lot of minutes to like instantly, like, maybe Amen Thompson is or Anthony Black is. Like, he's going to be more of a role player to start.
Yeah, definitely one of those guys you use sparingly, but when you do, you're able to count on them. Hopefully, count on them for 10 minutes to run your second unit, and you don't see very much drop off.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, do you have anything else you want to add on strengths or weaknesses?
No, I really like Jalen Hood-Schifino. I think his game is a good game, and I think that he will, assuming he can get better at shooting from three, I think his game will really translate to the NBA with a little bit of increased spacing and everything there. I think that, and plus he's just a freshman. He is going to be 20 like on draft night essentially.
Yeah.
That's a really nice luxury to have, to be able to kind of like get so much work out of him.
Yeah, he's got a lot of upside.
Yeah, for sure. So
just his defensive ability alone, I think, is fine. Like, you gamble on that because he will be able to, like, these are all playmaking guards, right? So he's going to be able to make some plays on offense. He's not the scorer that you might need, but you get a solid playmaker and a good defender out of JHS. So I like that for him. So let's move on to some player comps. I have Spencer Dinwiddie as my player comp. I think he's going to be better than Spencer Dinwiddie will be at this rate. But I think he's going to be not like, he'll never be a lead guard for a team, I don't think. But I think he'll be a solid 6-man role type player. I don't know. I just like the Dinwiddie comp because Dinwiddie also can't really shoot that well.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's, in terms of NBA players, it is kind of tough to find a non-shooter like this in a guard role, especially a point guard role that is also good at the playmaking side. I don't want to use Giddey because I'm probably going to use him later. No, I mean, I don't have a great one. I think Spencer Dinwiddie is a really good call.
We can have the same. It's okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think I have Giddey for somebody else later too. So
Hey.
okay, that just means we're on the same wavelength, I guess. So let's talk best team fit then. I'll let you go first, and then we'll see from there. Right now, he's projected 16th to Utah, so we'll see what happens there. But where do you think he would fit well in terms of where he's projected, and what teams probably need his services?
I mean, the pick right after that, the Lakers at 17, I think that would be a good fit. They just need playmaking in general.
Yeah.
And having size and the defensive kind of instincts that he has there would be really nice. Kind of applies to the Heat too.
I have Toronto, either Toronto or Utah. I say Utah because that's where he's kind of projected to go. Utah he needs anything right now. So, but Toronto, I think could use a big guard like that. They love the long defensive minded players, so it fits their culture well. I think he would be a good fit at Toronto. Be reaching up a little bit at 13 probably is where they'll end up picking, but I mean, we're talking three picks difference. That's not terrible.
Yeah, no, I like that.
So that's where I have him. So that is Jalen Hood-Schifino, and let's move on to Anthony Black. He played more shooting guard, small forward at Arkansas this past year. He's 6'7", 195. He really has point guard potential at the NBA, like 1 or 2 more than 2 or 3 potential in my mind as in the NBA. He's 19 years old. He turns 20 in January. So right now he's projected 6 to Orlando. Big boards have him around 8. I mean, he's a solid player. He's an a-hole. Like, he's a turd, but he's a good player. Like he like stepped over who was it that he stepped over in the Vanderbilt game? I can't remember. He like stepped over somebody, like went out of his way to step over somebody too. It wasn't like it was like even close, and he got shoved in the back by by some other Vanderbilt player that got ejected. But yeah, like he's just got like villain energy, but he's a really good player. I think he's the third best in this role here of shooting guards, whatever you want to call him. It's like a point guard shooting guard combo. I think he's right there in that running. So really solid player. So Dowell, let me know what you think about Anthony Black here.
I love him. Like he not only can physically make every pass, but the mental aspect. One of my favorite things that I like about him that I also liked about LaMelo Ball a lot, I feel like that we heard a lot about, is LaMelo Ball was just trying dumb shit. Like it didn't work half the time, but he would see something that he thought could be a potential like opening, an opportunity, and would try it, which I think kind of goes back to the rule of thumb of a lot of times the best indicator for efficiency later on in your career is volume, not efficiency at a lower volume at a lower level. So like that was the big push for Johnny Davis last year is, all right, yeah, he wasn't the most efficient player in like at Wisconsin, but he had so much volume that he normally will be able to like pull that back. I like all of the kind of like audacious passes that Anthony Black tries to make. Like he has really, really, really good feel for the game. He also, for being a freshman, being a tall freshman at that, because that normally is just like not super helpful for point guards and ball handlers. His turnover rate wasn't that high. So yeah, I mean they have like two little down arrows for weaknesses for turnovers. Some of those turnovers, like I said, I like to see. So
like gambling turnovers.
Yeah, and just say that you see something that no one else, that your teammates don't see, and you end up hitting them with the pass where they're not really ready for it, and that's a turnover on you. But you're the one that was really making that smart basketball IQ play that you would hope at least that your team is built to be able to to handle.
The NBA level will be ready for those.
You would hope so.
The college level, yeah. So no, I like Anthony Black. I think he's a solid player all around. Really good in the pick and roll. He's very competent at finishing, which makes him really good at the pick and roll, because if you put him in the pick and roll, he's so tall, he's hard to defend, and then he's also such a good passer that, you know, like if somebody is gonna, you know, attack him on defense, he's gonna carve you up with his passing. I think he's the best passer of the three that we have listed here.
Agreed.
He sees the court really well. He has high IQ passing. He's not super explosive, right? But he's still athletic. He's got a good change of direction, and he has really good control. But once you get him going downhill, that dude can elevate. Like he can get up. So his finishing, that's what also makes him really good in finishing, and like that control, that ball handling is fine. His off-ball movement is really good. We saw that. That's why I must put him in the shooting guard, small forward role there, because Devo Davis was fine at handling the ball. But his off ball like makes him effective, especially once he gets up to the league. He's probably, I would say, of the three here, he's probably going to be more of an instant impact player than the other two for whatever team he goes to. So, and then part of that is also his defensive prowess. He cuts passing lanes really well. He hounds ball handlers, and he can defend 1 through 3 like nobody's business. And he's 6'6", so that's good. You want that, or 6'7", I guess. So that's what's working for him. What he needs to work on, his shooting. Like defense has already started to sag off of him. He shot 30% from deep. So like at the next level, like we talked about earlier, like all these guys are gonna have shooting, and they're what needs to work on. That's just the archetype. But he had shown signs of that he could be a good shooter. So I'm not super worried about his shooting ability. But he's just not great scoring off the bounce. So if you cut his driving lanes and make him pull up at the elbow, like that's a non-forced turnover. Like that's a stat sheet turnover essentially, because he's just never making those mid-range jumpers super well, off the dribble, off the bounce, whatever.
Yeah.
And then his overall scoring ability is just kind of low, but that's fine because that a lot of it's going to be system dependent, I think, for him.
Yeah, and but like you said, I do think it's weird to say that. I mean, he's probably the youngest guy in this draft, but that he's the most ready to contribute right away. I think that he plugs in so easily, and on a lot of second units, ball movement is like the big thing that's lacking because your point guards are not as good. And I think that even if he's, like you said, put on in like a shooting guard, small forward kind of role because of his size, that playmaking and decision making should continue to kind of manifest itself.
Yeah. Yeah, if you put him in the shooting guard role with a scoring point guard, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I don't know what Memphis can do, but Memphis should try and get him somehow. I don't know like how they would be able to do it, but
Yeah.
and we'll talk about team fit, but like they need that because he would fit so well with Ja Morant, I think, in that 2 spot. So I don't know. We'll talk about that team fit in a little bit, but let's talk player comp first. So I put on here a shiftier Josh Giddey. I think he's got a deeper bag for one. But on defense, I think he's more shifty than Josh Giddey, and he just plays with a little bit more control. But coming into the draft, Josh Giddey, the biggest thing about him was his passing ability, his passing IQ. And that's a lot what we're hearing about Anthony Black here. Scoring wasn't a huge accolade for Josh Giddey. It's the same here for Anthony Black. Scoring came for Josh Giddey. I think it's going to come for Anthony Black. So that's my comp. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I like it. It's I mean, it's a good one. I think did someone have that? Did you see that somewhere else? I feel like that
No, I went to a Reddit of they compare that. I went to a subreddit and there was a lot. Somebody put Michael Kidd Gilchrist. Like I was like, that's not a good
all
comp
right.
at all.
We gotta get off of this Reddit page.
There were some good comments, there were some bad comments, but this is the one that this one didn't really come to me, or this one came to me more so because I just remember the Magic were thinking about taking Josh Giddey if he was available with that 8th pick, I think, where they took Franz. So because of his passing potential. So, and it's just kind of the same thing here. It's kind of giving the same vibes.
Yeah, I know I mentioned LaMelo Ball earlier, and I'm going to steal this from Kevin O'Connor on the Ringer NBA draft board, but Lonzo Ball I think is a really good comp. Lonzo's probably more.
That was one I saw a lot too. Yeah,
Lonzo's probably more developed on the defensive side, at least right away than Anthony Black is. Both Lonzo is wild because he's a great point guard that has beautiful playmaking ability, but you pressure him at all and he gives the ball up.
Yeah.
And not that Anthony Black did that this year, but he needs to continue to work on his handle like most guys do if he wants to really be a true point guard. And I think Lonzo Ball kind of had a similar thing. They're also somewhat streaky shooters. Lonzo was
crazy in college, man. He shot 41% from 3.
Yeah,
that didn't translate to the league at all.
Yeah, that was an aberration. So
that was crazy. I remember when he was in college, everyone's like, he is such a good shooter, and I was like, his shot, it looks broken, man. I don't know if that's I don't know if he's gonna get 41% from 3 in the NBA. I thought he'd be better than he was to start, but
yeah,
that was crazy. Yeah, no, I like the Lonzo comparison as well. I think Lonzo was a better scorer, just a little bit more polished. I think just a more polished player version of Anthony Black overall, but that's not a terrible comparison at all. So
thanks.
Let's talk best team fit here. So I went first on the player comp. Who do you have for best team fit?
All right. Um. So so it's weird because I think that the team that comes to mind for me doesn't actually really have a ton of room, and they also don't have the draft pick to do it. The Nuggets would be super fun because having him be able to play off of Jokic, which I guess is just the case for everyone because everyone gets better when you play with Jokic, and he's good at doing everything.
Yeah.
But that would be really fun. I'm trying to go through here and look at. I think him going to the Heat would be kind of fun, but that's a little late.
Yeah, I don't think he'll fall that far, to be honest with you.
That's a little late for him. No, I mean we've said it, but I think anywhere he goes, he's going to succeed, and he's my favorite of three guys we're talking about tonight.
I have him either going to Portland or Washington. I think Portland
Washington
would
would
be
be
a
super
fine
fun.
fit, but yeah, Washington, I think with Kristaps, what they have going there, Bradley Beal, if he ends up staying there, we'll see. He complains about it every year, but
Evergreen tweet right there.
yeah. But I think he'd be a fine fit in either of those teams. Portland, I think he'd be fine with in the second unit there. I think he'd be fine, but we'll see. I think either of these teams would be a good fit for him just because of it. Like you said, you're getting a long defending, playmaking point guard. Portland needs defense like nobody's business. I think Washington does a little bit too. But either way, it'd be fine. So, all right. Well, let's move on to Amen Thompson from OTE Overtime Elite. He is a shooting guard / point guard, 6'7", 202 pounds. Originally from Oakland. He is 20 years old. He has a twin brother, Asar, who we're not talking about tonight. I think we're on the only podcast to exclusively talk about one of these guys, not at the same time. So that's kind of cool. You should just keep listening to us for that alone. But this is the consensus is he is the better twin.
Yes, that was going to be one of the things I was going to clarify.
Yeah.
I know that because I listen to a lot of draft podcasts, but that's one of those things like because these guys are hard to watch. OTE is not actually that hard to find, but it's definitely not as
accessible. It's not as accessible as college. Yeah.
Right. That's what I was working to. So, yeah, I feel like these are two of the kind of wild cards at the top of the draft.
It is weird. The rules for OTE are a little different. So, like when a ball goes out of bounds, the ref doesn't have to give it to the player. So it's very much pickup-esque where you could just take the ball from out of bounds, like when it's a turnover, and then just throw it in. So they get a lot of transition buckets that way. They're 8-minute quarters. So it doesn't show the full capability of these players sometimes. Tired legs don't really come into fruition as much. I think that's part of it. It's just OT is just an odd product in itself. I think it's getting better. But overall, it's just a little weird. I think if these guys had gone to college, I don't think they'd be as ranked as high as they are, for one. But we'll see. They're still good. Don't get me wrong. And so, but we're talking about Amen. So Amen, he is a solid player. So what works for him? He's super athletic. Probably one of the, if not the most athletic guards in this draft. I think maybe Scoot has maybe an upper hand there, but he's taller. For one, he's 6'6".
Mm-hmm.
So he's fast. He's got vertical ability. He's got burst. Dowell, what do you like about Amen Thompson?
Yeah, I mean, athleticism is the thing that is the big selling point. It allows him to be just a one man, like transition bucket. His ability to turn defense into offense with his kind of like on ball defense, creating steals, that kind of thing. He is not only good at forcing steals, but also transitioning that into offense on the other end is something he does really well. Honestly, I wish, like you said, with OT, the product itself is fun, but they're just, you can tell he's on like a different playing field whenever he's playing, which
it's not great for development. That's for sure.
No, and I think he will still be like a not generational athlete, but he'll be like a top 2-3% athlete in the NBA when he gets there.
Yeah.
So he's kind of the exception to the rule, but you're just not playing against grown men, or you are playing against grown men. So it is, yeah. I mean, it's just tough to kind of like fully see how they translate, but I think that athleticism translates regardless.
Yeah, athleticism will always translate to the league, in my opinion. What he really is good at that I think will also translate is his precision passing. Like his outlet passing is really good. Part of it is because his team in the OTE was built on transition buckets, so he had to be good at outlet passing. I think, but also with his team being that they were such a transition heavy team, they had like one shooter, maybe two if you count Asar. But like they had like
which I would not count either of the Thompson twins as good shooters.
Correct. So like Asar is the better shooter of the two, and we'll talk about that in his weaknesses. But he's going to rack up way more assists than I think he like would project to right now because the amount of scores at the next level. Like he is that good of a passer, and he's that good at drawing in defenses that he can like get the ball to wherever he wants to. And I think like just like we talked about with JHS, if they had more scorers on OTE's team, then he would have had more assists. His assist rate would be higher. It just wasn't really there. What you're getting, what's really good for him is that you're getting another really good defender. Like he's really good on ball. He moves laterally. He navigates screens well. He has active hands. He gambles a lot, but I like that in a defensive player. Like and especially in the NBA, I like a defender because he also is really good at recovery. He's like athletic enough that if he gambles, he can make up for it. And it's not like that burst of energy is just wasted cutting the passing lanes. And if he misses it, oh well. But he is so good and so athletic that he can get back and recover and affect shots from behind. So
it's the same kind of thing that on the defensive end, I would love to see guys take chances like that, just like you like to see on the offensive end, where you're throwing passes that might not really be like the smartest pass, but it's just cool that you were even able to see those. And it's not quite to the level on defense as it is there, but it's pretty close in terms of like you said, the gambling, the thinking that you can do that. That's definitely helpful.
Yeah. And the last thing I'd say he's what's working for him is his slashing ability. Like he's really good at slashing and cutting to the basket. So that is working for him very well. What he needs to work on, evergreen with these guards, is shooting. He has really awkward mechanics. Like Asar, he's going to be a better shooter just because his mechanics are good. Like Amen's mechanics are very, very, very stiff. You don't think he?
No, I'm agreeing. That's my face for thinking about his shooting mechanics. It really, really worries me that because one thing that you would love to see him be able to do is him use his athleticism to put pressure on the defense, which then forces the defense to actually step to him and guard him, which gives him an opportunity to pass the ball. If you let the defense just kind of sit back in like a little soft zone and clog the passing lanes, that takes away one of the major aspects of his game in the ability to see those kind of passes, as well as makes it easier for him to defend if they're just going to be like, all right, like we'll play drop coverage on you, and if you want to take a 16-footer, then go for it because your form is awful and you're not going to make it. Like that, I would love to have Amen Thompson on my team. That would be the major issue that I have, and the major worry is that he just never becomes a shooter that
No.
like Rondo kind of deal, like where awesome player, everything else that he does is great, but he just literally gets left open and takes away from his other skills because he can't shoot.
Lakers, Russell Westbrook. Yeah.
Just Lakers, Russell Westbrook.
I mean, Clippers, he's actually making them because it's off the dribble, shooting them, whatever. Like Lakers try to make him a shooting guard.
I'm just saying, yeah, no one has been guarding Russell Westbrook for his
for sure. Career. Yeah. His off-ball movement and scoring is he needs to work on that, which is weird because I said his slashing and cutting ability is good, but like he still is the primary ball handler in those situations. And it's just more of like when he is not the primary ball handler, what is he doing? Because he's not.
Or if he's not, like, I feel like this is a thing that I kind of thought about Shaedon Sharpe, which is funny because they're both elite athletes. But
yeah,
Shaedon Sharpe's off-ball movement is great. He's a great cutter to the basket.
Yeah,
but his like relocation stuff isn't really one of his strengths. And I feel like that Amen Thompson is kind of the same from what I've seen. Is whenever he's cutting to the basket, he's smart at doing that because it allows him to utilize his athleticism. But just like kind of like his normal off ball within the offense movement when he doesn't have the ball is not great.
Yeah. And then the last thing I say for he needs to work on his finishing, his touch. Like he just didn't finish great around the rim, which is odd because he's super athletic. But I think that can be solved a lot easier than the other two. And
a lot of that comes down to just play strength and get him in a NBA weight room for 2 years, and he's finishing a lot of those.
Yeah, he was not super strong. That's one thing I think that we'll see a lot with OTE athletes is that they're just not super strong players.
I feel like his finishing at the rim was just kind of fluky at the beginning of the year too. From what I have heard on Draught podcasts that were kind of talking about it, they were like, he should be finishing better than he is in terms of how he was getting to the basket. So I think it got better as the year has gone on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I from what I've seen, it looked like it got better. So
yeah.
So let's move on to player comp then. Do you want to go first on this one or you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. So this is a little unconventional one because coming into the league, this was not his position, but I really like it overall. And I think it's going to bode well like in the long term rather than the short term. But Sixers, Andre Iguodala, old heads will know. But I think this is the comparison right there because Sixers Andre Iguodala was really strong defensively from the jump. We're going to see that in Amen. He was super athletic. He was a lot slimmer. He's a lot slimmer than he was, in Golden State. But he again super athletic still, and he could probably guard the best 1 through 3 on the court, just like Warriors or Sixers Andre Iguodala could. I think. I don't like the Ja Morant comparisons because Ja Morant was just way more polished coming into the league than Amen is. So I don't really like that for him because he's not going to be the number one option like Ja was instantly for the Grizzlies coming into the league. I don't think he's going to be a number one option for any team to start because he's not the shooter like Ja potentially was to start,
Yeah, I mean,
just the scoring.
It's bad when you're saying Ja was a much better shooter coming into the league than you are, because that does not bode well for where you're starting off on.
Exactly. But neither was Andre Iguodala, but he still found ways to score. And Sixers Andre Iguodala wasn't a great shooter, but there at the end, he got better at shooting.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when you get older. You have to learn how to finesse a little bit more on your shooting ability. Even LeBron. I mean, look at LeBron shooting splits from, like the first stint at Cleveland to now, or even the second stint at Cleveland. Like he got better as a shooter. That's what you do. So I think his shooting will be fine long term. He's never going to be like a 40% 3-point shooter, but he could get to 35 and be fine. I'll take that. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so I like the Ja Morant comp just in the elite athleticism with need to develop on the shooting side. Honestly, Shaedon Sharpe is, I mentioned him earlier on the cutting side, but he's like, if Shaedon Sharpe had like a playmaking bag, And all right, this is a little bit of a stretch, but if you took Luka's like passing ability and gave it to Shaden Sharp, maybe you gave it like 80% of it to Shaden Sharp or something, because
Yeah.
he's not the passer that Luka is, because maybe 2 people on the planet are the passer that Luka is. But take like discount Luka playmaking and give it to Shaden Sharp, and that's who you have, which is a weird
That's a
comment.
lot.
That's
That
a
is
very convoluted way to get to it, but
that's like Sid's toys from Toy Story. Like
oh man, it's the model with it's the model fishing pole.
yeah.
But no,
The hooker. That's what it is.
true. I think one of the things that's very exciting about him, and honestly his brother too, kind of, but more so him, is there just aren't many players in the league like him, which I think will scare some teams off, but I think will make the better teams be more interested, because he just is an outlier that has the potential. We've seen guys that where there aren't really great comps. Jokic is a great example, where those guys are the ones that really kind of do start to push the league and change the league in terms of the evolution for where basketball is going. And I'm skeptical that he's able to have a full like kind of paradigm shift impact, but he has a couple of the characteristics that come along with those guys. So yeah, my convoluted comp is fits, I guess.
All right. Well, let's move on to the best team fit for Amen Thompson. Who do you have in this one?
All right, so there's no way he gets here, but because they're literally not in the lottery, never mind, I can't do that. I was gonna say the Lakers. That would have been fun. Just because they need athleticism and they need ball handling and they need people on the perimeter. Pacers would be really fun. Charlotte would be really fun.
I went with either the Rockets or the Spurs. He has Rockets energy to me, especially with Ime Udoka just announced that he's the new coach.
True.
But he very much reminds me, like, has Rockets energy to me. Or the Spurs. The problem with the Spurs is they're tanked for Victor. They're probably going to get him. And there's no way that they're taking Amen Thompson over Victor Wembanyama. But for some reason, if the Spurs end up not with the number 1 pick, which, I mean, there's plenty of Sims that I've come across that don't have them taking the number 1 with the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I've seen them go to 5 to the Spurs at 5 or to the Spurs at 4. I've seen that in a lot of mocks. So I think he would be nice to, like, because they just don't have anybody that's that athletic and that can defend that well. That athletic?
The Rockets?
No, the Spurs.
Oh, Spurs. Yeah. I was gonna say Jalen Green exists.
Yeah,
So
no. That's the
no,
thing.
Spurs.
Like, him and Jalen Green would be fun, and they have like Jabari Smith is a good shooter. Like, so you don't have to
Theoretically.
worry, like, spacing the floor there. Like, you have a floor spacer. Like, Jalen Green, I don't know. He's not a great shooter. He's a fine shooter. But him and Jalen Green would be really fun together. Like, no doubt, for sure. Like the Spurs, they'll take whatever they can get. This is a Ja Morant light, we've said before. So why not just build like kind of similar to what the Grizzlies have done, except for not drafting an idiot like Dylan Brooks. You know?
Yeah, that's that idea. I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna go a little bit beyond where he will probably be able to end up. But the Pacers would be super fun, just because Tyrese Halliburton is so versatile on the back end, or like in the backcourt,
Yeah.
that you could let both of them kind of cook and be kind of split the difference between primary and secondary ball handlers, where they're both
Yeah.
like primary-ish ball handlers. Because Tyrese Halliburton passing to cutting Amen Thompson would be wonderful. And then you could flip that and have Amen Thompson be the ball handler, and Halliburton is a good enough shooter where he could play off ball and have a perimeter oriented game there. So you'd have a lot of options in that backcourt if he went to Indiana.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's move on to the last call then. Dowell, what are you closing us with tonight?
I haven't thought about this one yet. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I was gonna give shouts to Hoop Intellect on YouTube. I watch a lot of his scouting reports, so a lot of what you hear me talk about these players are kind of echoes from what he's saying. I also shout out to Box and One podcast, the Ringers NBA Draft podcast. So a lot of what you're hearing tonight is kind of regurgitated thoughts of what they're saying, with our own takes on them. So I'm not saying it's straight up plagiarism because we definitely change enough of the content, but definitely go listen to those shows. And also just I appreciate everybody that interacts with us on Twitter. Keep doing that. That helps us build our content, build our fan base here, and like our videos on YouTube there. So that helps as well. So that's what I was gonna shout outs to.
Yeah, Ringer NBA Draft Show is great. Jay Coman and Kevin O'Connor there. Especially Jay Coman, love the work that he does. I really respect his basketball takes. So I'll just piggyback off that. And shout out them. That's one of my favorite things about, and the NFL draft starts this week. So it's the same case there. It's just hard to watch all these players. It's hard to consume everything, get a true grasp of who they are. So being able to lean in and, like you said, you're not fully plagiarizing, but listening to experts is how you get smarter. So doing that and finding people that you trust, that it's especially nice when you can find someone that has a similar approach and a similar kind of theory around how they value basketball, so that Jay Coman, I feel like he and I are very similar in what we like to see in players, that kind of thing. So I know that whenever he likes a player, it's probably someone that I should go and check out because I'll probably like them too. That kind of thing is just, find people whose opinion you value. And like you said, at that point, it's not plagiarism. It's just respecting their opinion enough to kind of have it start to form the baseline for your own.
For sure. Yeah. Also, I want to shout out to the Rays for winning tonight, making it 20 wins in a row. And I want to cry because the Bolts lost in overtime again for the second straight game in a row. So sad. They're down 3-1. Probably not going to come back. But
who are they playing?
The Maple Leafs. So
the old Canadians.
Yeah. We got them a couple 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row actually. So it probably due at this point. So but this has been the bottom line because Connor said so. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Beers and Buckets Pod. Go check out Variety Sports Network for more shows like this one. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can either watch it on our channel or on Variety Sports Network channel. So go check them out and sub them.
Why not do both?
Do both. Watch them both there. And then you've seen all the ads, and you'll probably see one mid-roll on where you can use your promo code. So go check that out. So we appreciate you guys listening, and make sure you share this episode. Love you guys. Thank you.
I turned 29 in 45 minutes. No, 35 minutes.
I knew it was soon. Happy early birthday, Dowell. As you're listening to this, make sure you text or tweet at Dowell. Happy birthday. See y'all.
I appreciate it.